My boss made me fire myself. Yeah, you read that right. Before I get into how I went from being employee of the month to cleaning out my desk for something I didn't even do, hit that subscribe button if you're into real stories that expose the ugly truth behind corporate smiles. I worked at a mid-sized software company in Chicago, one of those places where every meeting starts with a fake laugh and ends with a new deadline. I was a senior project manager, 3 years in, and genuinely loved my team. We weren't just coworkers, we were friends. Or, at least I thought so. My boss, Mark, was one of those cool guy managers. Always in sneakers, always calling us rock stars, but behind the chill exterior was a control freak with a god complex. Still, I played along. I hit every target, mentored junior staff, even covered for others when they messed up. And I guess that was my first mistake, thinking loyalty would protect me. Then one Monday morning, I walked into a meeting that wasn't on my calendar. HR was there. Mark was there. And a manila folder with my name on it was sitting dead center on the table. "Do you know why you're here?" the HR rep asked me with this forced smile that immediately made my stomach turn. I didn't. But what I was about to hear would make me question everything: my team, my boss, and even myself. "We've been reviewing some concerns about your recent performance," the HR rep said, her voice calm but rehearsed. I blinked. My performance? Mark stayed silent, arms crossed, like he didn't even know me. I looked at the folder. Inside were printouts of emails, mine, supposedly. One thread showed me arguing with a client. Another showed me missing deadlines. Another claimed I deleted source files from our internal server. Only. None of it was true. "These aren't real," I said, flipping through the papers. "I never wrote these. This isn't even my writing style." The HR rep smiled that same hollow smile. "We have logs showing the activity came from your login credentials." Mark finally spoke. "Look, man. I defended you. But the evidence is overwhelming. If there's something going on in your personal life, just be honest. We can try to help." I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, this was a setup. I asked to speak to IT. Denied. I asked to verify the metadata on the emails. Denied. They were done talking. Instead, they gave me an option: I could resign quietly, keep my reputation intact, or face a formal investigation and risk being blacklisted from the industry. My palms were sweaty. My heart was pounding in my ears. The walls felt like they were closing in. And worst of all, I saw my own teammate, someone I mentored for years, standing outside the glass wall, watching it all happen. I walked out of that HR meeting in a fog. Everything felt unreal, like I was floating outside my own body. But the second I saw Alyssa standing by the elevators, eyes darting away the moment we made contact, it clicked. Alyssa was my direct report. I trained her from day one. Helped her get up to speed, recommended her for raises, even covered for her when she missed deadlines. She was like a little sister to me. So why was she the only one standing there? Watching? I caught up to her in the hallway. "You knew this was coming, didn't you?" She wouldn't look at me. Just kept fidgeting with her phone. "Alyssa, tell me you didn't." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "They told me I had to cooperate. I didn't know it would go this far." "Cooperate?" She finally looked at me. "Mark said the project was off track. That we needed a fall guy. I didn't want to lose my job." That word, fall guy, burned through me like acid. They needed someone to blame, and they picked me. The guy who never missed a deadline. The guy who stayed late, led team calls, gave up weekends. "You were in on it from the start?" I asked. Her silence said everything. I didn't say another word. I just walked away, but not before noticing something strange. She had a new keycard. A different color than the rest of us. One I'd only ever seen managers carry. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying it all in my head. The fake emails, the phony meeting, Alyssa's hollow apology. But what really haunted me was that keycard. That little flash of plastic proved something bigger was happening. And I had to know what it was. The next morning, I came in early, technically still employed, at least on paper. I walked past my own desk, trying not to flinch, and headed straight to the internal org chart. That's when I saw it. Alyssa, Project Manager. My title. My role. Already updated in the system. They hadn't even waited for my resignation. That's when it hit me, this wasn't about performance. It was a power grab. Mark had been grooming her to take my place. Maybe I trained her too well. Maybe she played me the whole time. But either way, the decision had been made weeks ago. I just didn't see it coming. Worse, the chat logs I pulled from the project server showed that she'd been CC'd on every single email used to frame me. Not only did she know, she helped write them. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking as I clicked through more records. Meeting invites I'd never seen. Private conversations between Mark and upper management. My name tossed around like a problem to be solved. They didn't just replace me. They erased me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. They wanted me gone quietly. But they got sloppy, and that was their first mistake. That morning, instead of heading to HR like they expected, I went to the IT guy, Eric, someone I'd helped get hired 2 years ago. He owed me a favor. And more importantly, he hated Mark. I told him what happened. I showed him the emails. He frowned. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "Your account didn't show any logins during those timestamps. In fact," he pulled up an access log. "Look at this, all that activity came from a terminal in conference room B. Not your laptop. Not even your desk. That was it, proof I didn't send those emails. But if I took this straight to HR, it'd disappear. They were in on it. I needed leverage. So I asked Eric something bold, can you keep watching the logs? If they're sloppy once, they'll slip again." He hesitated. "You're asking me to spy. I'm asking you to watch, not report. That's all." He nodded. "Just don't get me fired." I left that office with one thing I hadn't had in days, hope. I wasn't just a scapegoat anymore. I was a problem they hadn't finished dealing with, and now, I was watching them back. 2 days later, I got a text from Eric. "You need to see this. Urgently." We met in the break room, acting like it was just a casual coffee run. He had his laptop open, angled carefully away from the hallway. "There's a file hidden in the shared drive," he whispered. "Encrypted, but I cracked the naming pattern. It's labeled under your folder, but the creation data doesn't line up." He clicked it open. It was a performance review draft, supposedly written by Mark, and dated 6 weeks ago. Long before I was ever in trouble. But here's the kicker. The author tag didn't say Mark. It said Alyssa. "She wrote this?" I asked, stunned. Eric nodded. "And it's full of red flags. Claims you were hostile, resistant to feedback, erratic with deadlines." None of it was true. None of it had ever been brought up to me. "She planted the seed," I muttered. "She didn't just replace me. She rewrote my record." It wasn't just sabotage, it was reputation laundering. Eric looked nervous. "This isn't just a setup. This was premeditated. And someone else had to sign off on it." I asked, "Can you trace who accessed the file last?" He typed quickly, then froze. "You're not gonna like this," he said. "The last person to open it was HR." That's when I realized, I wasn't fighting Mark. I wasn't fighting Alyssa. I was fighting the entire system. At that point, I knew the only way to survive this was to go full shadow mode. No more confrontations. No more asking questions. Just watching. Listening. Recording. I bought a cheap pen recorder off Amazon. Nothing fancy, just enough to catch voices in meetings. I also started forwarding all my internal messages to a private, off-site email I controlled. Discreetly. Carefully. I wasn't paranoid, not anymore. I was prepping for war. The next week was hell. Mark acted like nothing happened. Alyssa smiled like we were still friends. HR ghosted me entirely. But the weirdest part? I was still technically employed. No formal paperwork. No write-up. No final decision. It was like they were dragging it out. Waiting for me to either break or quit on my own. Then came the moment I was waiting for. A team meeting. Mark walks in late, looking flustered. Alyssa's already seated at the head of the table. Mark mumbles something like, "Just finalize it. We can't afford to wait. Just put it through." Alyssa nods, says, "Don't worry. HR already pre-cleared the timestamp." Timestamp? I clicked my pen. That tiny exchange, so casual, proved what I suspected. They'd backdated everything. The emails. The review. The whole paper trail. And now? I had them on audio. For the first time in weeks. I smiled. I knew I couldn't go public with what I had, not yet. If I went to HR, it would disappear. If I leaked it online, I'd risk getting blackballed. I needed a scalpel, not a hammer. That's when I remembered Janine, a compliance officer who'd transferred out of our department last year. We barely talked back then. She was quiet, always stuck in spreadsheets and policies. But she'd once pulled me aside and said, "You're one of the only people around here who follows the rules even when no one's watching." So I took a chance. I messaged her on LinkedIn, privately. "I need help. Off the record. And I have receipts." She responded in 10 minutes. We met after work at a coffee shop. I showed her the fake emails, the backdated review, and the audio recording. She didn't blink. "I believe you," she said. "And if what you're saying is true, this isn't just unethical. It's a liability nightmare." Apparently, Janine had dirt of her own, emails from months ago where Mark authorized bonuses off books, using project budgets. One of those bonuses went straight to Alyssa. Now we were both holding dynamite. And Janine? She had contacts in corporate legal. "I can't promise anything," she said. "But if we play this smart, we might not just bring them down. We might burn the whole thing from the inside out." We knew Mark wasn't just careless, he was cocky. He thought he was untouchable. That made him predictable. So Janine and I set a trap. She sent him an internal message from her compliance address, flagged urgent, requesting clarification on an anonymous concern about Alyssa's bonus approval. No names. No accusations. Just enough bait to get him talking. 20 minutes later, he responded. And he didn't just respond, he CC'd 2 senior managers, trying to get ahead of it. "There's nothing out of policy here. The bonus was a discretionary performance reward, pre-approved in conversation. No formal documentation required." He literally typed those words. That was it. An admission that he bypassed documentation, which violated 3 separate audit rules. Janine grinned. "That's strike 1. We waited. The next day, Mark pulled Alyssa into a closed-door meeting. So I walked past, casually, with my pen recorder running in my pocket. Didn't catch much at first. Just muffled voices. But then, clear as day, I heard her say, "If this blows up, I'm not taking the fall. You promised I'd be protected." He snapped back, "Then stick to the story. You saw the review. It's locked in. No one will question it." Locked in? That's when Janine's plan clicked into place. We didn't need to destroy them. We just needed to let them keep talking, while everything around them fell apart. We timed it perfectly. Janine drafted the leak, a clean, anonymous tip sent directly to corporate ethics. No dramatic accusations. No whistleblower drama. Just one email, with 3 attachments. 1. A screenshot of the discretionary bonus email from Mark. 2. The access logs showing the backdated review file. 3. A transcript of the meeting where Alyssa said, "You promised I'd be protected." We hit send on a Thursday evening, just late enough that it wouldn't get flagged until Friday morning, when leadership was in meetings and PR couldn't spin it fast enough. By noon, it had exploded. Phones were ringing. HR went into lockdown mode. Mark canceled all his meetings. Alyssa looked like she'd seen a ghost. They didn't know where it came from, that was the beauty of it. No fingerprints. No login trails. Just enough heat to make everyone sweat. Then came the twist I didn't expect. Alyssa flipped first. That same afternoon, she scheduled a private one-on-one with the director of operations. By the time Mark tried to deny everything, she'd already handed over her own chat logs, including screenshots of Mark asking her to help frame me. Just like that, their alliance shattered. I watched it all from my desk, still technically employed. Still invisible. Still recording. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was justice, and I hadn't even pressed play yet. When the director of operations called me into her office the next morning, I expected the worst. Instead, I walked into a scene that felt surreal. Mark was sitting there, red-faced, sweating, trying to defend himself. But his words were shaky, and his usual confidence was gone. I didn't mean for it to go this far," he stammered. "Those emails. The bonus approvals, it was all just." He trailed off, defeated. Then Alyssa spoke up, her voice steady but cold. "I followed orders. I was scared. But I'm willing to cooperate." That's when they played my recordings, snippets of Mark and Alyssa plotting, backdating documents, and gaslighting me. The room went silent. I felt a rush of relief and vindication flood through me. After that meeting, I was reinstated, with a formal apology from HR. But more than that, they launched a full investigation into the entire department. Mark was put on administrative leave. Alyssa, well, She was demoted and placed on probation. I got my job back, my reputation restored, but the scars ran deep. That day, I realized something crucial. Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who will stab you in the back. But if you hold your ground long enough, justice can find a way. Going through all of this broke me, not physically, but mentally. I lost sleep for weeks. I questioned every decision I'd ever made at work. I even wondered if I'd imagined some of it. But surviving it changed me in ways I didn't expect. I learned to trust my instincts more, especially when something feels off. I learned how toxic workplace politics can be, even in places that look perfect on the surface. And most of all, I learned that sometimes, silence is the enemy. If I could do it all again, I'd start documenting everything from day one. Emails, conversations, meetings, every little detail. Because when the system is stacked against you, the only defense is proof. I also realized the importance of allies. Janine wasn't just a compliance officer, she became my lifeline. Having someone who actually believes you, even when it feels like the whole company is against you, can make all the difference. Now, I'm more cautious but also more confident. I know that no job is worth sacrificing your mental health for, but when you find yourself in a fight like mine, you fight smart. If you're dealing with a toxic workplace right now, remember, you're not alone. And sometimes, the only way out is through. After everything came to light, I expected Mark and Alyssa to just quietly disappear, but what happened next shocked me. Mark wasn't just put on leave, a full internal investigation revealed he'd been involved in multiple unethical schemes across departments. Bonuses, budget manipulations, even attempts to cover up employee complaints. He was officially fired within a month, and his name never resurfaced in the industry. Alyssa? She tried to salvage her career by turning whistleblower, but no one forgot her part in framing me. She was demoted and given a probation period that felt more like a warning to keep her quiet. Eventually, she left the company, quietly, but with a tarnished reputation. But the real surprise was HR. The specific rep who pushed my resignation quietly resigned herself. Rumors say she was pressured by upper management once the scandal went public. I watched all of it happen from the sidelines, a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness swirling inside me. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about cleaning house. Sometimes, toxic workplaces look like a family, but underneath, they're full of sharks waiting to tear each other apart. And when the tide turns, you see who swims and who sinks. After the dust settled, I had a choice. I could let this whole nightmare define me, or I could use it to build something better. I chose the latter. I took time off to recharge, reconnect with my family, and get my head straight. Then, slowly but surely, I started applying to new jobs. Not just anywhere, places with real transparency, strong ethics, and supportive cultures. It wasn't easy. The stigma of being fired lingered in the back of my mind, even though the truth was out there. But I learned to tell my story honestly, focusing on what I overcame, not what I endured. Today, I'm in a leadership role at a company where my voice is actually heard. Where team means something real. And where trust is earned, not faked. I'm sharing this story because I want you to know, if you're stuck in a toxic workplace, you're not alone. And no matter how dark it gets, there's a way forward. Sometimes, that way starts with just telling your story. So if you want more stories about the real battles people face behind office doors, hit that subscribe button. Because this isn't just my story. It's the story of so many of us. If you've ever felt powerless at work, like no one's listening, like you're just a number in some endless corporate machine, you're not alone. I was there too. Feeling trapped, betrayed, and like I was fighting a losing battle. But here's the thing, you don't have to stay stuck. There's strength in speaking up, in gathering proof, in finding allies, and most importantly, in refusing to be silenced. Workplaces can be toxic. People can be ruthless. But justice? It's possible. And sometimes, it starts with just one person saying, "Enough." I'm sharing my story so you know that no matter how deep the betrayal, how unfair the system, you can fight back, smart, strategic, and with your dignity intact. If you want more stories that dig into the real struggles behind office walls, stories about betrayal, survival, and sometimes sweet revenge, hit that subscribe button right now. Because these stories aren't just entertainment. They're a reminder that the truth matters, and that you're not alone. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.